The Berlin blockade was an attempt in 1948 by the Soviet Union to limit the ability of France, Great Britain, and the United States to travel to their sectors of Berlin, which lay within the Russian-occupied East Germany. Eventually, the Western powers instituted an airlift that lasted nearly a year and delivered much-needed supplies and relief to West Berlin. Coming just 3 years after the end of World War II, the blockade was the first major clash of the Cold War and foreshadowed future conflict over the city of Berlin.
In years prior to 1947, there was never a baseball player in the MLB that was African American. In 1947, Jackie Robinson would change the game of baseball forever. Jackie Robinson was the first black baseball player in the MLB in the modern era. The Brooklyn Dodgers signed Jackie in the fall of 1945 prior to the 1946 season. The owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers at the time was Branch Rickey and became a very controversial owner at the time. Jackie joined the big league team on April 15, 1947, and officially broke the color barrier. Jackie wasn't just a publicity stunt, he was one of the best players in the 10 years he played Major League Baseball. Jackie won the Rookie of the Year in its first season and would win the league MVP in 1949. Jackie Robinson would lead the way to more black baseball players to enter the league and change the face of professional sports in America forever.
The Soviet Union inaugurates the space age with its launch of Sputnik, the world's first artificial satellite. The spacecraft named Sputnik after the Russian warfare satellite. Officially, Sputnik was launched to correspond with the International Geophysical Year, a solar period that the International Council of Scientific Unions declared would be ideal for the launching of artificial satellites to study Earth and the solar system. However, many Americans feared more sinister uses of Soviets' new rocket and satellite technology, which was apparently strides ahead of the U.S. space effort. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, leaders of the U.S. and the Soviet Union engaged in a tense 13-day political and military standoff in October 1962 over the installation of nuclear-armed Soviet missiles on Cuba, just 90 miles from the U.S. shores. In a TV address on October 22, 1962, President John Kennedy notified Americans about the presence of the missiles and explained his decision to enact a naval blockade around Cuba.
The Apollo mission started in 1963 were put in place by President John F. Kennedy. This was the United States countered the USSR and their space program and the launching of the Sputnik satellite. The Apollo missions were huge for the U.S. space program because it was what helped the U.S. surpass the Russians in the space race to the moon. The goal of the Apollo missions was set by JFK in 1961 in his famous speech where he declared that by the end of the decade the U.S. would reach the moon.
The Little Rock Nine were a group of 9 black students who enrolled at a formerly all-white Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. In September 1957, their attendance at the school was a test of Brown v. Board of Education, a landmark 1954 Supreme Court ruling that declared segregation in public schools unconstitutional. On September 4, 1957, the first day of classes at Central High, Governor Orville Faubus called in the Arkansas National Guard to block the black students.
The greatest rock and roll and all-around music artist of all time is undeniably Elvis Presley. He did not create the genre of rock and roll as it created before him by a multitude of different music talents. Although Elvis did not create rock and roll, he was one of the who made it famous and brought it to the mainstream audience. Elvis's music has become some of the most famous and has transcended generations. His music created a new movement of music and lifestyle, and it will lead into and be the base of many music we hear today.
Jail. The prison band was there and they began to wail. The band was jumping and the drum began to swing. You should have heard the knocked out jailbird sing and rock.
4 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negroes.